Hey Boat Dragons, I'm so glad you've joined me today. It is time for my monthly update. You know the drill. Everything that I read in September is on the table. We're going to talk about things that I plan to read in October, and we'll talk about some other things like Chaz and Friends, and I'll share some of my highlights from the month of September with you. So if you have a few minutes, sit down with me for a spell, grab a snack, grab a drink, and let's see what we can accomplish here today. And let me get my glasses on here. We're going to start with the books I read in September. And the first one I want to mention is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. And I did a review for this book, so if you haven't watched that yet, I'll link it in the cards at the end of the video. You can go check that out. Long story short, I absolutely love this book. It may be my book of the year. There's still plenty of time in the year, so that could change. But as of right now, that's kind of how I'm feeling. I had an absolute blast buddy reading this with Joe and Mary over at Book Buds. We all really enjoyed the book, and I just highly recommend it to you. Okay? The next book I read was Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. This is the second book in her Villains trilogy. At least I think it's going to be a trilogy right now. I know she's working on book 3. And this was also a buddy read. I buddy read this with Gareth over at Book Songs and Other Magic, and also Dave and Olive over at Book Blather. I want you to go check out their channels. They're really awesome. Dave wasn't able to finish out the buddy read with us, but I hope he gets to read it at some point down the road. So it was just a really great time. I liked it just about as well as the first book, Vicious, and yeah, another highly recommended book. I'm just loving reading V. Schwab's books. The next book that I read in September was Not Till We Are Lost by Dennis E. Taylor. And that is book 5 in the Bobiverse series. And I read this with my buddy Carl from Geek on My Sleeve. He and I have a tradition of buddy reading these books together, and it was just a really great time. I still am loving the Bobiverse. It still isn't quite maybe as good as the first 2 or 3 books were, but it's still such a great series, and I really enjoyed my time with it. A lot of interesting concepts and a lot of great humor. So, yeah, definitely recommended from me. The next book is another buddy read. This was the month of buddy reads, guys. This was The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, and I buddy read this with Mona Lisa from the channel Mona Lisa Reads. Good friend of mine. She and I have been working through the Agatha Christie series, specifically the Poirot books right now. And oh man, Roger Ackroyd was such a great book. If you love mystery and you like Agatha Christie, I highly recommend you read it if you haven't. And if you wanted to read mysteries before, that's probably a good place to start. Honestly, I would say The Murder of Roger Ackroyd is a fantastic place to start. And then, guys, I finished all of my books early in the month, surprisingly. I had room for one more. And guess what I did? I read Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I had never read it before. It was a good book. I was just blown away by how weird and off the wall and bonkers at sometimes that book is. And it makes sense. When I was a kid, I watched a mini-series based on that book over and over, probably to my parents' great discontent with how much I watched it. I wore out the tapes that it was recorded on, because back then we had to record stuff on tapes, right? Man, I watched that thing so much, and I remember it being very bonkers, and the book matched. And I had a really great time. I'm really happy I read it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a review for you. And it's going to be a very special type of review. So stay tuned, make sure you look out for my Alice in Wonderland review, okay? Alright, so that's everything I read in September. Let's move on to what I plan to read in October. And it's October, right? It's spooky month, so I've got to have some spooky, scary stuff to read. And the first book is The Shining by Stephen King. I've never read The Shining, guys, and I've never seen the movie, so I will be watching the movie as well after I read the book. I'm really excited to finally get to read The Shining, and we'll see what I think. I've said in the past, Stephen King is hit or miss for me, but I'm really hoping that I love The Shining. And even if I don't, I'll still watch the movie because I've heard it's quite different. So even if I don't like the book, maybe I'll like the movie. So we'll see. But I'm really, really hoping that I like the book. The next book on this list is something I call a mini-series of books. And this is The Boy in the Iron Box series by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan. I just ran across this randomly on a recommendation on Amazon, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And each of these stories is like 20 pages long. And I'm a huge Del Toro fan, guys. I love Guillermo del Toro. He's just a fantastic creator, creates some really creepy stuff. So I'm looking forward to trying out these really short stories is what it boils down to. But it's a collection of 6, and I'm going to read all 6. So I'm super excited about that. The next book on this list is Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. And I'm buddy reading this with Danielle over at Bookara. We have been reading through The Realm of the Elderlings together, and we are just super excited to start this book. In fact, we are so excited that we already started the book. And yeah, I know. We started it early, the end of September, and we just couldn't wait, guys. So we got a head start. And that's okay. It's okay to do that sometimes when you're really excited to read a book. And we were. So that's what we're doing there. And then I'm also going to be participating in a buddy read on the Dragon's Den Discord. This buddy read is hosted by Drew over at Drew's Book Reviews. And he's been hosting a Dune read-along. And I've already read the first 2 books, so I didn't participate in those for the read-along. But I have not read Children of Dune yet, guys. And he is hosting Children of Dune in October. I'm going to be reading Children of Dune. I am so excited, guys. It's about time that I get in gear and finish the Dune saga. That's not going to happen this year, but I'm going to make a good dent in it and hopefully finish it next year. And I've got my beautiful, gorgeous deluxe edition copy here. And, I mean, look at those sprayed edges. Isn't that just a beautiful cover? I'm so excited. I love this book. So I hope I love the story as well. And then, guys, I think I'm going to have room for another book. And I'm excited to try out my new direction for the Stein of Power. If you watched my video on changes to my Stein of Power plans, then you'll know that I switched from doing book names to doing reading prompts. And so, I have my handy-dandy Stein of Power here. And I'm going to, it's pretty chock full of reading prompts. So, I dropped one there. Okay, well, I'm not going to count that one. We're just going to fiddle through these and see what I've got. Let's see. Okay. I think I got one here. Let's see what this says. All right. So, for this reading prompt, I have to read a book with 2 authors. Now, I could cop out and say, okay, well, I'm going to be reading the ones by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan, so that'll count. I'm not going to do that, guys. I'm not going to do that. Call me crazy, but I'm not going to do that. So I have to find a book with 2 authors, and I think that this is a perfect time for me to read the next book in The Expanse. Am I crazy? I think I'm crazy, but I'm going to go ahead and say Nemesis Games by James S.A. Corey. And you may be like, Chaz, that's not two authors. Yes, it is. That is a pen name for Daniel Abraham and Ty Franck. Is that cheating? Maybe that's cheating. But it is two authors, so I'm just going to go with it. All right, guys. So that is my book with two authors prompt. I'm going to stuff that back in the Stein. Maybe it'll come up again in the future. I'm super excited to read the next Expanse book. I hope I'm not biting off more than I can chew this month, but we shall see. It remains to be seen because Fool's Fate is like 800 some pages. The Shining is like 600 some, so we shall see. But I'm going to think positive, right? Thinking positive on this. Okay, so now I neglected to do this in my last monthly update. I really should have, but it's time to pick my patron pick for the final quarter of 2024. And I have all of their names here. I've got 4 patrons so far. Just, shameless plug, if you want to join my Patreon, you can. Link is in the description below. And I'm going to toss this around. I'm not looking. And we're going to see who gets picked for this patron pick. Okay, so let's see who this is. Hey, it's Kaiju8. So, Kaiju, I will be reaching out to you to pick another book for me to read for the final quarter in 2024. And that's great. I'm excited. So, I will probably just plan to do that, whatever that book is, in November, and that way I can announce it to you at my next monthly update, or maybe in December. But in any case, that's the plan. All right, guys. So that's all the reading. Now let's talk about Chasm Friends. If you have not seen it yet, I had the extreme pleasure of having Fina from Fina Reads on my channel for Chasm Friends. And not only was she on Chasm Friends, she was on Chasm Friends Remix because, yes, she has been on my channel before, and I got to have her back a second time. So that worked out great. I'm so happy that she was able to join me. We had a great discussion. It was so much fun. And you need to check out her channel, and you need to go watch that live stream. Chasm Friends for October is happening. And I do have plans for who is going to be on that episode of Chasm Friends. I'm just trying to work out the finer details with them. So stay tuned for that. I'm also going to have the pleasure of being on Cobalt Dragon's channel. So if you have not watched Elaine over at Cobalt Dragon, I'm going to be on her channel on October 13th. She was kind enough to reach out to me by email and ask me if I could be on the channel, and I was so happy to accept. I'm looking forward to being on that, so make sure you tune in and watch that live stream. I will be posting more information on that as the time grows closer so that you know the times and everything. And I believe she made a community post about it on her channel if you want to go check that out. And I think she posted the time for it. I just don't remember the time right off the top of my noggin here, okay? So I'm really excited to be on her channel. And I've got one more live stream to tell you guys about, and that is the release party for the Nomad's Crucible on October 15th. Yes, that is going to be a very busy day because that is a Tuesday and that is my normal video release day. So there will be a video that will be releasing on October 15th, but that night I will be hosting my release party for the book. So I hope you can join me, and I'll be posting more information about that as it grows closer. So let's talk about some highlights from the month of September, in case you were wondering what I got up to. And as usual, I'm not going to share everything with you because I did a whole bunch of stuff and you probably don't care to hear about every single thing that I did. But I did have some really special stuff that I got up to. And the first of those was finishing Dark Matter. And this is an Apple TV Plus series based on the book by Blake Crouch. And I was really impressed, guys. That show did a phenomenal job of adapting the book. And it's really interesting because the way they ended it does leave it open for a second season, and it got renewed for a second season. That was just announced, I think, yesterday or maybe the day before. I don't know. But anyway, there's going to be a season 2 of Dark Matter, and it deserves it. It was a really fun ride. I also started watching season 2 of The Rings of Power. And guys, I really am enjoying it so far, to be perfectly honest with you. Is it faithful to the lore of Lord of the Rings? It's hit or miss, right? But it's a really fun fantasy show, and I'm enjoying it. So, looking forward to seeing how that ends. And then I also started the newest season of Doctor Who, finally, on Disney Plus. It's been out for a while, but I haven't gotten a chance to watch it. So I started watching it, and I'm absolutely loving it. Ncuti Gatwa is a phenomenal doctor. He's got such a great energy, and he puts such a unique twist on the role. I love it. It's really great, and I can't wait to see where the rest of the season goes. I did watch some movies as well. I watched The Greatest Showman for the first time with Hugh Jackman. I'd never seen that before, but it was a really, really enjoyable time. Great musical, and Hugh Jackman is great as always. He's got a great voice and such a great performer, so I'm really glad I finally got to see that. We also watched Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and that was a lot of fun. And you know what, guys? I'm really impressed. Ghostbusters is one of the most consistently good movie series out there. You know, as a series goes on, sometimes they just go out in left field and the sequels upon sequels upon sequels just aren't as good. That's not the case with Ghostbusters. I've been really impressed with all of the Ghostbusters movies. So, and then one other TV show that I forgot about is Umbrella Academy Season 4. We finally finished the Umbrella Academy. It was just okay. The ending was not great, but it was an ending, and it's the end of the series. So, I'm glad I watched it. And I don't know if I would rewatch the whole series. Maybe I would, but I enjoyed myself. It was a good time, but it didn't end quite as well as it could have, I don't think. So, I played a lot of board games. A lot of board games. I'm not going to list all the board games here because there were just at least 10 or 12 different board games over the course of the month. That was a lot of fun. I attended several game nights, and that's where we got up to all the games. But there's a few that definitely stuck out to me. One is Tokaido. That is a Japanese vacation game. You're basically in Japan and eating foods and working on farms and, gradually progressing on your vacation through the country. It's kind of interesting. It's definitely a different type of game, and I really, really enjoyed it. I also got to play Ticket to Ride for the first time. I'm surprised I'd never played it before. I honestly never thought I would enjoy it, but I did. I loved it. But what I loved even more than Ticket to Ride was Ticket to Ride Nordic. And I think that's my favorite Ticket to Ride that I've played so far. Granted, I've only played the original and that one, but Ticket to Ride Nordic was just a really fun game. I definitely loved exploring the Nordic countries as I built my train lines. It was a lot of fun. I just enjoyed Nordic a whole lot more. So that was great. And then there was one more I wanted to talk about, and that is, Monster Slaughter. It's basically this cabin that a group of teenagers have gone to hide out and be safe from the monsters hunting them. And the people playing the game play the monsters. So the object of the game is to break into the cabin and eat the kids or kill the kids or whatever. It's a very unique concept, and it kind of has a Scooby-Doo feel to it, which made it super fun. But instead of the Scooby-Doo gang hunting the monsters are hunting them. It's really a lot of fun, and I would definitely play it again. So that's all I got up to in September. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of all of my reading plans and some of the stuff I did in September. Tell me about the stuff that you did in September, and tell me what you plan to read in October. I would love to talk with you about that. And until next time, make sure you guys read more books. I'll talk with you soon. And I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for your support.